Good morning everybody, and a very warm welcome to Behringer, and today I have a how-to video for you. It may be broken up into a number of parts. We shall see how it goes, and basically it's how to make your own Network Rail Mark 2. So without further ado, I'll show you what we're going to be doing. So firstly, this is the one that I've already created. It isn't anywhere near finished yet, but basically we're going to be making another one of these, but slightly different, and I'm going to show you how you go about doing it from scratch as opposed to showing you like this. So here we are at my monitor, my computer screen, and first of all I thought we'd have a quick chinwag on the various Mark IIs that we have. These are all 4 different pictures. Obviously there's 1, 2, 3 and 4, and I wanted to show you some of the variations that you get. And I wanted to also point out is that some people were asking me about what sort of paint do I use, or what colour yellow I use, and obviously I'll go through that once again shortly. But I just wanted to point out that you can see that this yellow on this particular Mark II is actually slightly darker than the rest of them. And I just wanted to sort of say to you that it doesn't really specifically matter of the shades, because if they're slightly lighter or slightly darker, in reality out on the rails, Network Rail did use a number of shades for their numerous vehicles, so they're never quite all matched up. And you just have to look on Google, and you see rakes and consists of Network Rail vehicles, and you'll see that the various yellows don't always kind of match. One of the other things to bear in mind also is that some of these, as you can see on a lot of these Mark IIs, they've got some of the windows missing or blanked out, whatever you want to call it, and there's some on this side as well, some down here. And the thing to note, and this is what I wanted to point out, one of the other differences of some of these, is that some of these, like this particular one, you can see it was just plated over, and then these ones were like absolutely flush, and you can't. So what I mean by plated over is that you can still see on this particular one that you've got these 2 windows basically just plated over. You can see the outline and the surrounds of the windows, whereas on this one you can see it's completely flush and there's nothing there. And also the same on this one here. So there are various sort of ways of doing this, and I wanted to particularly point out the fact that some are plated and some weren't, because we can replicate the plated version relatively easily, which is what I'm probably more than likely going to be doing anyway, because I think that's the easiest way of doing it. Whereas these ones, obviously you have to start messing around with filler and stuff, and if you're not really that way inclined, then you can always do this version, which is a lot easier, and I'll explain that to you shortly. So those are the 2 kind of main things I wanted to point out by showing you these 4 pictures together. So here we are on my workbench, and so I'm just going to go through some of the things that you're going to be needing. And it also depends on what you're going to do, because once you've opened up the Mark II coach, it depends, you might just want to respray it and put it into a different livery and still keep it as a passenger coach. So there are some things that are slight differences that you might do depending on how you're going to use the coach. Firstly, you're going to need a donor vehicle, and this particular one is a Lima Mk2, and it's currently in its intercity livery. Now, it's actually in remarkably good nick, to be truthful with you, but because I want to get some newer ones, and also that Lima Mark IIs, these particular ones, which I'm not sure if they're Ds or Es, but basically these are the ones to use, and there is a number of reasons for that. One is the fact that they're older, so if you've never done this before, you want to sort of mess around with it. At least you're not going to lose a lot of money if you get this wrong. Also because when I tried to get into my original Mark II, which I resprayed, the Lima ones, the Network Rail one originally, there was no tutorials or anything out there on the internet to show me how to open one of these up, and there are loads of these out there, and some of you may have scruffier ones than this and want to redo something with them. And so at least if I show you how to do it, how to open it, at least you can then maybe either respray it or maybe just keep it and just add passengers to it, because this is another thing, you know, you can't, there's no passengers in this, so if I wanted to keep this as a passenger coach and add some people on it, there's no tutorials out there on how to open this up to be able to put some passengers in there. So that's another reason. So this is your donor vehicle. Then you're going to need something like, this is what you, it's almost like a foundation brush basically. And again, this is all open to interpretation, but this is basically just to clean, I use this to clean the dust off and basically get into the nooks and crannies of the windows to make sure you get everything off from all the corners to sort of prepare it for painting and that kind of thing. So that's another thing you need. Again, it's not an essential piece, but if you have something like that to hand, then that's great. Also, screwdriver, flathead, because you're going to need to prise it open. Also, we have the Wilko's primer, which I use. It's because it's the cheapest one around, and it does exactly the same as all the other primers, and it's less money. And this goes a very long way. So although it seems like you're spending a fair amount of money on paints and things, you just kind of bear in mind that obviously the more you do, the more coach you do, then obviously the more cost effective it becomes. But this has already done a huge number of things. I've also got the yellow, which I've briefly touched on before, which the one that I'm currently using is TS34, and that is a Tamiya colour. But again, don't worry too much, like I said before, about the shades. As long as it's fairly close, then I wouldn't be too overly worried about it. Then we have a grey as well, and this is for the roof, and I used this originally for the gantry over at the nuclear flask terminal, so I've still got this paint left, and again this will go a long way, so depending on how many you're going to do. And again also these colours of paints that I'm showing you only really, for me, only work for the network rail in terms of that's what I'm going to be using. But obviously if you're going to repaint it into a different livery, then obviously these paints won't apply to you, but the primer will. I also have a rail match. This is a black matte, and this will be used to paint the chassis and basically do that. And then you've got the little mini Humbrolls whites and orange just to pick out a few details here and there. I'm going to get a red acrylic to pick out the springs, but again, depending on the livery and what you're doing, basically this may or may not apply to you. So again, it's all open to interpretation. This is just some sandpaper, very fine, just to make sure that you take off all the decals and everything on the coach and everything like that, to remove all those. And last but by no means least, we're going to be using a flush glaze windows kit from Southeastern, and it says it's number 38 and it's a Lima for Mark 2 E's and F's, which I think it will fit on that. I've kind of bought this as a bit of an experiment, but I know that if it works, it will give the right result. And basically what this will do is, I'll take it out once it's opened, is basically it's a push fit to make all the windows on these Lima coaches all flush to the actual bodywork. But the wonderful thing about using this in terms of the network rail is you can basically, if you're clever, you can use this to create about 3 or 4 different network rail coaches, because you can use this as a plated over effect, and the windows that you want to keep just leave open like this, which is what I'm going to be doing, and that will become more clear as I go through the build. Now you can go to town on these things, and some people have suggested a number of things, like maybe removing the bogies and putting some nicer ones on. You can even spend money on putting some nice metal wheels on it, and then obviously if you keep it as a passenger coach, you got people, you can buy some people to put in them. When I do the other ones, I will be buying people to put in them, but because this is a network rail coach, obviously this is an engineering train, so we don't really need to do that. As far as the wheels are concerned and all the rest of it, this is supposed to be just like a cost-effective kind of way of doing things. A lot of these paints that I've showed you, I have already, so I haven't actually had to spend any money on them, and you may find the same, that you might have some of these paints to hand already. So the first thing you want to do is basically just pop these bogies out, and then as you can see, they're 2 pins. Somebody suggested getting some Bachmann B4 bogies, but they're actually screwed in as opposed to plug in like these ones, so I don't think they actually worked. I haven't really checked it out properly, but to be honest with you, I'm quite happy with how it is. So there goes one, and then you just pop out the other one, and like I said, it just clips in just like that. So you've now got 2 of these, and what you can do is also, what we'll do is when we come to respray the chassis, we'll pop the wheel sets off, and then we'll just have just a black plastic bogie, and then we can spray that up and all the rest of it. So now this is where it starts getting tricky. It does get tricky opening these things up. Sorry, that was my computer deciding it wanted to do. So the first thing to do is you've got at the bottom here, I don't know how well this is picking it up. I'm trying to do 2 things at once here. But you can pop the ends off, and basically there's a little gap there, and you have to be careful, because what you're just going to do is just prise the screwdriver in, and then just pop it out, and as you can see, the ends just pop out like that. Just to show you like that, let's just come off. So you have to be a bit careful, because sometimes they do ping. The last time I did the last coach, it pinged and it just went somewhere, and I managed to find it, but just be a bit careful. I just carefully prise it out, and that just pops off like that. Okay, so now the next thing to do, it gets a bit more tricky. As you can see, well, I hope you can anyway, there's a couple of clips here. There's one there, and then there's another one at the other end. Now, I did break this one off on the last coach, but in all truthfulness, it doesn't actually make any difference whatsoever, because once you pop the ends on again, this bottom piece here will just cover it anyway, so you won't see it. So I'm going to try and do this on the camera, but if I don't, like I said, it is going to be a bit tricky, because I'm trying to do this and try and make sure it stays in the camera. Like I said, I'm just going to break that off, because it doesn't matter, to be honest with you. Because what that does is it just releases it. Like I said, it won't take away from the effect of the so that's 1, that's 2, so that's where we're at currently, and basically just allows you to lower the ends so you can get to these, because there's a selection of clips down one side, well, both sides actually. So this just allows you just to sort of, so this is where you have to be a bit sort of careful. As you can see, this is just popped. Don't know if you can see that, that's just a little gap there. And a lot of it is just, you just have to be really careful. Because the other thing is you don't want to break the chassis. like I said, this is the worst bit of it, to be honest. Right, that's one of them gone. As you can see, there's a little clip there. And then you just carefully keep running your screwdriver, and now as you can see, it's starting to come away. And there goes another one. So just be careful how you hold it as well, because obviously you don't want to damage the bottom ends of it. So just be a bit careful how you do this. And now that's come away. Now all I've done is basically I've worked my way along down one edge of the coach. I didn't sort of go this side and then I went to that side. I just worked my way down one edge and just flicked one side open like that, and that's how you do it. I've actually learnt this lesson from my last one, because like I said, when I did the last one on the network rail one, this bit popped off and broke off, but I mean I glued it back on. I mean you wouldn't notice it, but obviously you just need to be a bit careful. So you think you're in, and then you realise you can't get this out. So we'll now move on to the next stage. So the next stage of this is going to be to take the roof off, and this is another tricky little bit. Now the easiest way that I've found of doing this, it depends how old your coach is. You might find that there's some slight gaps on your roof, in which case you can basically put a screwdriver in the gap between the body and the roof and sort of tweak it and it will pop. Or you can do it the other way, which is there's some clips under here right at the top, there's one at each end, and basically you can break the clips from underneath, and then that will pop it out, which is what I've done on this side. And now that's kind of, if I just show on this side just in case you didn't see it, there's a clip right down the end. It might be quite hard to see, and then basically that pops out, and as you can see there's now a gap sort of running through, so you can just carefully just pull this out. There you go. I hope that came out alright. So basically it goes in like that, and then you just sort of pop it out like that, and then you can get to the inside of the coach as well. So now you've basically, that was the metal bit, the weight that goes underneath. So now you've got all the various components of the coach here. So now you've literally got the shell of the coach of your Mk2. So one of the things I'm going to test fit, which I haven't done yet, so this is all completely new to me, but I know it pretty much does work, so it shouldn't really be too much of a problem. And like I said, if you're clever about this one pack, which cost me, apparently one pack will allow you to do a complete coach, and this is the glazing kits for it. And basically, depending on what you have, you should be able to just push fit these things in. So that's kind of how it works. And obviously if it doesn't quite fit, you can actually make it fit by just cutting the plastic out. And basically what that's going to do is, if you wanted to do it as a passenger coach, for example, you can just use this kit to completely flush glaze so it butts right up. But in my case, because I want to create the distinction of having windows and then some other being plated over, I'm going to use the push fit ones as the plated over ones, and then leave the other ones as they were before. So I'm just going to have a little play, and I'll show you in just a jiffy how to I've just sort of fitted some of those flush glazing in, and I think this must be like a Mk2D, because I think the spacing isn't quite right on it, but I've had to cut them individually, but because they're plastic it's not a problem. You had to push fit them in, and the ones that I've done are these last 1, 2, 3, and I don't know if you can really, comes out on the camera, that these are more flush glazed, and you can see that on these ones further back that there is a bit of a depth. Now the flush glazed ones are the ones that I'm going to respray and prime over to give the plated over effect, and then after leave the other ones as they are. So that's kind of what the plan is. I don't know if you can pick that up. If not, I mean, it will come up once I respray it. But I just wanted to push fit them and test them. It didn't quite fit as easy as I'd hoped, but it will do. I think it will work. This is all a bit of an experiment from this point of view. But what we're gonna do next is actually gonna sand this all down and to prep it for priming. So to prime it, or to prep it, I'm just going to take the sandpaper off, and basically I'm going to remove all the lines and any of the decals that are on here. So I'm just going to do that, and then what I'll do is I'll come back to you once this is all nicely done. So we're back, and I've now sanded this off. I've added some of the glazing on the bits that I wanted to be plated over. And I have to say, I'm not overly impressed by it, but I only bought one pack, so that's just as well. So I think if when I go to create my other coaches, I don't think I'm going to bother. But in saying that, it is very good for the network rail, because that just gives the good plated over effect. So, and that will give the distinction between one being slightly more raised than the others, so it kind of gives the effect that one side parts of it are plated over, whereas the other parts are just windows. So from the network rail point of view, it's quite good. And the other thing is, it was only £3.25, I think it was, for a pack, and I've still got I've got that bit and another set left over here. So if I decide that I wanted to do another network rail coach, I've still got plenty of spares for use for plating over various windows. So that's kind of, it was an experiment, and it has worked for the network rail, but I don't think I'm going to be using it anymore for passenger coaches or anything like that. What I'm going to do now is spray it up and have a look and see how that comes out. I've now primed all the components, barring the roof, so now that they're just going off. But what I wanted to show you, well, actually it has gone off already. What I wanted to show you was the coach and how it looks like. Now this is how it looks like with the flush glazing in, and like I said, I'm not overly impressed with it. As you can see, this side is slightly still misaligned a little bit because it hasn't actually fit properly. As you can see, there's a few gaps along here. So to counteract this, what I've done is I've got a scrap piece of card and I've cut a little strip and basically started inserting it to fill these out. So as you can see on this side, I've done 3 little bits here with the card, and I've inserted it in, and what I've done is I've pushed it out, and now on this side it looks a lot better. The gaps have gone, but you can still see the outline of the windows, but that just gives the effect that it's been plated over. Now once the other windows go in, clear glazing, you'll see that there's a definite sort of ridge where the glazing sits further back, and where these ones have been plated over. And the lavatory one will be also done, but I mean in the flush glazing, but that won't actually be sprayed, which is why it's not actually sitting in there. So this is what I've done so far, and I think this works. Like I said, I'm not overly impressed with it, and it will work for the network rail, and it is worth buying a packet for the cost, and it will get you a number of coaches. But I personally speaking, I wouldn't use it if I was to try and glaze a standard passenger coach, because I just don't think it's worth the effort, to be honest. And plus, like I said, I've had to use these inserts in order to push them out to make sure that they fill in the whole panel and glazing. So, you know, it will work for the network rail and stuff like that to give the plated over effect, but I wouldn't personally use it for any other passenger coach. So what I'm going to be doing now is going to be using some more inserts that I've done here and then I'm going to do it on that, and then basically let this all go off, and then we'll do some more painting once it's all gone off properly. So I think we'll probably leave the video here and come back to me for the second part of it. This may even be the third part, I'm not actually too sure, but we'll see how we'll break this up. But nonetheless, you won't miss anything. It's now done. So the next thing will be to start, once the paint's gone off, will be to paint them into their various colours and start building up the coach. So bye for now. So just before we go, I just thought I'd let you know where we're at. Basically, the coach is still the same, but I've now given the chassis and the bogies and the ends of the coaches a good old spray of the Rail Match Matte Black. So that's all going to be going off, and that's looking really nice actually. So hopefully once we start putting the coach back together again, it will look to something like I would like, and it will just be another coach to add to the Network Rail coach. So that's what we have so far. So like I said, even if you don't spray the coach into Network Rail and you just want to put passengers, at least you know now how to open up one of these Lima Mk2s. So thanks for watching. Please feel free to comment and subscribe, and I will speak to you soon with maybe part 2. So bye for now.